When the Galactic Council decides humanity needs testing before joining interstellar civilization, they trap a research team in their most brutal simulation, a Category 7 planetary catastrophe designed to break even the hardiest species within hours. But lead assessor Vorn 12 and his team are about to learn why humans are the only species to colonize a death world and call it home. What follows is a masterclass in human stubbornness, dark humor, and the terrifying realization that Earth's normal Tuesday would send most alien civilizations into extinction-level panic. The simulation was supposed to test their limits. Instead, it revealed something far more disturbing. Humans don't have limits. They have hold my beer moments. Lead assessor Vorn 12 had witnessed 43 species undergo the trials. 43 civilizations subjected to progressively difficult scenarios designed to measure resilience, adaptability, and breaking points. Every single one had failed by Category 5. Humans were about to face Category 7. Simulation parameters locked, announced his assistant, Kelthara 9. Her 3N stalks focused on the holographic interface. Category 7, environmental cascade. Multiple simultaneous disasters. Atmospheric pressure variance of 60%. Temperature fluctuations from -40 to +50 Celsius. Seismic activity registering 9.2. Radiation spikes. Toxic gas releases. Vorn 12's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Excellent. How long before psychological breakdown? Previous projections suggest complete cognitive collapse within 2 hours. Physical systems failure within 4. Inside the observation deck, 6 humans stood in what they'd been told was a routine assessment facility. The simulation would activate in 30 seconds, transporting their consciousness into fully immersive digital bodies while their real forms remained safe in stasis. They wouldn't know it wasn't real until the test concluded, or until they broke. The team leader was a woman named Sarah Vance, a planetary geologist with an impressive record of surviving hostile environments. Beside her stood Marcus Webb, an emergency response coordinator. Then there was Priya Sharma, a structural engineer. Rounding out the group were twins Jason Morgan Hunt, survival specialists, and finally Tobias Reed, a meteorologist. 30 seconds. Vorn 12 announced through the communication array, "Prepare yourselves." Sarah gave a thumbs up. Marcus cracked his neck. Priya checked her equipment pack. The simulation engaged. Reality dissolved into chaos. The humans materialized on a rocky plateau as the ground began shaking violently. Chunks of cliff face sheared away, plummeting into churning waters below. The sky had turned a sick yellowish green, pregnant with electrical storms. Temperature gauges screamed warnings as readings dropped 15 degrees in as many seconds. Vorn 12 leaned forward, waiting for the screaming to start. "Oh hell yes," Marcus shouted over the wind. "This is just like Guatemala." Vorn 12's anterior spine stiffened. "What?" Sarah was already moving, pointing at an outcropping. "That overhang. We need shelter before the real weather hits." "Real weather?" Kelthara 9's voice pitched higher. "This is the real weather. Category 7 means we've got maybe 10 minutes before things get spicy," Tobias interrupted, squinting at the sky. "See that rotation pattern? We've got a supercell forming, probably gonna drop a wedge tornado, maybe EF4 equivalent." "F4 is that bad?" Kelthara 9 asked. "Bad?" Tobias laughed, actually laughed, as he jogged toward the shelter. "Lady, EF4 means winds up to 170 miles per hour. It'll peel asphalt off roads and turn cars into confetti. So yeah, pretty bad. But I've seen EF5, so this is, survivable." Vorn 12 felt his respiratory sacs constrict. "They're not panicking. They're laughing," Kelthara 9 corrected, horror creeping into her tone. The humans had reached the overhang and were already assessing their situation with terrifying efficiency. Priya was examining the rock structure, running her hands over stress fractures. "This'll hold for wind, but if we get seismic activity above 8.5, we need to be ready to move." "Got it," Jay said, unpacking rope from their supply kit, setting up quick-release anchors just in case. Morgan was scanning the horizon. "We've got, 300 meters to that ridge. If this position fails, that's our secondary." "Agreed," Sarah said, then paused, tilting her head. Anyone else feel that vibration pattern? Feels like a harmonic frequency buildup. Marcus pressed his palm against the rock. Yeah, you're right. We've got maybe 90 seconds before a major seismic event. 90. How can they know that? Vorn 12's voice cracked. Kelthara 9 checked her readings. Sir, they're correct. Seismic event in 87 seconds. How are they predicting this without instruments? Because Marcus grew up in California, Sarah replied, apparently hearing their transmission bleed through. A glitch Vorn 12 would need to fix later. You learn to feel earthquakes before they hit, or you don't make it past your first big one. The ground began its violent dance exactly 87 seconds later. What happened next would haunt Vorn 12's dreams for cycles to come. As the plateau buckled and twisted, as rocks the size of transport vehicles bounced like pebbles, as the very air seemed to scream with fury, the humans simply adapted. They moved like water, flowing around danger, communicating in rapid-fire shorthand that spoke of countless similar experiences. When the earthquake triggered a landslide, they'd already repositioned. When the temperature plummeted and ice began forming, they'd already created thermal barriers using their equipment and body heat. When the toxic gas vents opened, releasing clouds of sulfur dioxide that should have sent them into respiratory failure, they'd already fashioned breathing filters from their clothing and activated their emergency oxygen reserves. How long do those reserves last? Kelthara 9 whispered. In this atmospheric pressure? Maybe 20 minutes. Then they'll die soon. But they didn't die. 20 minutes passed, then 40, then an hour. The humans had found a thermal vent, carefully positioning themselves to use its rising heat to create an updraft that dispersed the toxic gases. They'd turned a death sentence into climate control. This is impossible, Vorn 12 said flatly. Sir, should we increase the difficulty? We're already at Category 7. There is no higher difficulty. Sarah's voice crackled through again, talking to her team, but somehow perfectly audible in the observation deck. Okay, so I'm calculating we've got about 6 more hours of this before the simulation cycle resets or they pull us out. We just need to... 6 hours, Vorn 12 shrieked. You're supposed to be catatonic by now. Who's that? Marcus asked, looking around. I think it's the aliens running the test, Priya said casually, as if this revelation was as interesting as weather commentary. Oh cool. Hey alien dudes, this is pretty good. Reminds me of that time in Alaska when the compound fracture happened during the avalanche. Now that was a bad day. Tobias nodded enthusiastically. Or remember Hurricane Maria, when we had to evacuate the hospital during the eye wall replacement cycle. Or the Fukushima assessment, Sarah added. Radiation, earthquakes, tsunami, nuclear meltdown. That was a real multitasker. The Galactic Council observers sat in stunned silence. They're comparing this to their normal lives, Kelthara 9 said numbly. Vorn 12 couldn't speak. His species had evolved on a garden world where the worst weather phenomenon was a light drizzle. The Galactic Council represented 47 civilizations, and not one of them came from a planet that remotely resembled the hellscape called Earth. These humans, these impossible creatures, treated Category 7 catastrophe like it was a moderately annoying afternoon. Sir Kelthara 9 said slowly. What? What do we do? Vorn 12 watched as the humans actually started making jokes, keeping morale up through humor darker than a collapsed star's core, and he realized something that would change the Council's entire understanding of the universe. Humanity hadn't survived despite their death world. They'd survived because of it. We, Vorn 12 said carefully, are going to need a bigger simulation. Vorn 12 made a decision that would either earn him a commendation or get him expelled from the Assessor Corps. He activated Protocol Omega. Sir, that protocol hasn't been used in 200 cycles. Kelthara 9's eye stalks retracted in shock. It's theoretically lethal. Everything we've thrown at them is theoretically lethal. They're using a pyroclastic flow as a heating source right now. Indeed, Sarah had repositioned the team near a volcanic vent, using the superheated gas to dry their clothing while simultaneously avoiding the toxic components. It was the kind of calculated insanity that made Vorn 12's neural clusters ache. Protocol Omega meant removing all safety parameters. The simulation would throw everything simultaneously. Mega tsunami, volcanic eruption, asteroid strike, atmospheric electrical storm, gravitational anomalies, radiation bursts, and pathogenic contamination. It was designed as a theoretical model for planetary death, not an actual test. Engaging Protocol Omega, Vorn 12 announced, his manipulator appendages trembling. May the cosmic spirits forgive me. The simulation reset. The humans found themselves on a coastal facility as warning klaxons blared. Through the reinforced windows, they could see a wall of water 300 meters high racing toward shore. Above, the sky had turned crimson as a massive asteroid broke through the atmosphere, fragmenting into dozens of city-killer-sized chunks. The ground vibrated with volcanic activity. Radiation detectors screamed. The air itself seemed to buzz with lethal energy. Vorn 12 waited for terror, for surrender, for the blessed relief of watching them finally break. Instead, Marcus checked his watch. Okay, tsunami arrival in 4 minutes. Asteroid impact starting in 6. Volcanic eruption probably around minute 8, based on those harmonic tremors. We need a plan, people. Up, Sarah said immediately. We go up. That facility has a roof access. We get to high ground before the wave hits. High ground won't save us from the asteroid, Jace pointed out, already moving toward the stairwell. No, but the tsunami will, Priya said, her mind clearly racing through calculations. The water displacement from multiple asteroid impacts will create interference patterns. If we time it right, we can use the wave dynamics to avoid direct strikes. She wants to surf the apocalypse, Kelthara 9 said faintly. That's the most human thing I've ever heard, Vorn 12 replied, something like awe creeping into his voice. The humans reached the roof in 90 seconds flat. The tsunami was now visible as a churning wall of destruction carrying vehicles, structures, and debris the size of buildings. The first asteroid fragment struck 20 kilometers inland, the shockwave flattening everything in an expanding ring of annihilation. Morgan pulled out their rope. We secure ourselves to this antenna ray. When the water hits, we'll be submerged for maybe 30 seconds. Hold your breath. Don't fight the current. In whatever you do, don't let go. What about the radiation? Tobias asked, eyeing his detector as it went haywire. We'll deal with cancer later if we survive the next 10 minutes, Sarah said grimly. Priorities, people. They secured themselves just as the tsunami struck. Vorn 12 watched in horrified fascination as the massive wave engulfed the entire facility, submerging the humans in churning, debris-filled water. The antenna held. Somehow, impossibly, it held. When the water level dropped enough for their heads to emerge, all 6 were still there, gasping but alive. Then the volcanic eruption began. A column of ash and superheated gas shot 15 kilometers into the sky, spreading a deadly umbrella of pyroclastic material. Lightning danced through the ash cloud, each bolt carrying enough energy to vaporize a small building. More asteroid fragments rained down, their impacts triggering secondary earthquakes. The antenna, Priya shouted over the chaos. We can use it as a lightning rod. It'll channel the strikes into the building's ground system. And the ash cloud? Marcus yelled back. We make filters. Morgan was already tearing fabric. Cover your mouths and noses. Shallow breaths. The ash will settle heavier than air, so we stay low when possible, high when the pyroclastic flows come. Pyroclastic flows move at 400 miles per hour. Kelthara 9 shrieked at her console. Nothing survives pyroclastic flows. But the humans had spotted something. A massive piece of debris from the tsunami, a section of a cargo ship's hull, had wedged against the building at an angle. Sarah pointed at it. That's our shield. If we can get behind it before the flow hits. They moved as a unit, scrambling across the debris-strewn roof with asteroid impacts bracketing their position. They reached the hull section with maybe 15 seconds to spare, squeezing into the narrow gap between metal and concrete just as the pyroclastic flow hit. The temperature sensor in the simulation read 600 degrees Celsius. The humans pressed themselves flat, sharing the small pocket of slightly cooler air, their breathing synchronized to conserve oxygen. Vorn 12 could see their skin reddening from the heat, could see the pain in their faces, but not one of them screamed. Not one of them quit. The flow passed in 45 seconds that felt like an eternity. When they emerged, coughing and burned but alive, Tobias actually laughed. It was a ragged, half-crazy sound, but it was genuine laughter. "You know what this reminds me of?" he said, voice hoarse from ash and heat. "That conference in Phoenix when the air conditioning broke and it was 118 degrees outside. Remember? We all thought we were gonna die." "This is slightly worse than Phoenix," Sarah said, but she was smiling too, that manic grin of someone who'd stared at death and decided it wasn't that impressive. "Is it though?" Marcus countered. "At least here we don't have to sit through PowerPoint presentations." They were joking. In the middle of simulated planetary extinction, they were joking. Enough. Vorn 12 stood abruptly, his chair clattering backward. "End simulation. End it now." "Sir?" I said, "End it." The simulation dissolved. The humans blinked back into their real bodies in the assessment facility, looking confused and mildly disappointed. Vorn 12 descended from the observation deck on shaking limbs. Entering the main chamber for the first time in his career, he approached Sarah Vance directly. "Why?" he demanded, his translator unit struggling with the emotion in his voice. "Why do you not break? We threw everything at you. Planetary extinction level events. Multiple simultaneous. You should be. Dead?" Sarah offered helpfully. "Traumatized." She exchanged glances with her team. "I mean, yeah, it was intense. But we've trained for worse." "Worse? What could possibly be worse than Protocol Omega?" "Well," Priya said thoughtfully, "Earth, mostly. See, the thing is, our planet's been trying to kill us since before we climbed down from the trees. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, pandemics, asteroid strikes, ice ages, heat waves. We've survived all of it." Marcus nodded. "We're not special because we're tough. We're tough because our planet gave us no choice. Adapt or die. So we adapted. We also invented dark humor," Jace added. "Really helps." Vorn 12 felt something fundamental shifting in his understanding of the universe. "Your planet, Earth, it's a Category 7 disaster zone." "Category 7? Tobias frowned. "Is that all? Man, you should see hurricane season in the Gulf. Or tornado alley in the spring. Or wildfire season in California. Or typhoon season in the Pacific. Or monsoon season in Southeast Asia. Or—" "We call it Tuesday," Sarah interrupted gently, seeing Vorn 12's distress. "Look, I get it. You wanted to test our limits. But here's the thing about humans and limits. We don't really believe in them. We've been breaking through supposed limits since we figured out how to make fire. Then we decided that wasn't enough, so we went to space. Then we decided that wasn't enough, so here we are, meeting aliens." "You're saying," Vorn 12 said slowly, "that Protocol Omega, the most extreme disaster simulation in Galactic Council history, is equivalent to a normal day on Earth." "Normal might be pushing it," Morgan said. "But survivable?"
"Yeah,
"Definitely survivable." Kelthara 9's voice came through Vorn 12's communicator, shaky and small. "Sir, what do we tell the Council?" Vorn 12 looked at these impossible creatures, these humans who treated apocalypse like an inconvenience, and he knew exactly what he would tell the Council. "We tell them," he said quietly, "that we need to recalibrate everything we thought we knew about survival, because we just discovered a species that doesn't survive disasters. They thrive in them." Sarah extended her hand, a human gesture Vorn 12 had studied but never understood until now. "So did we pass?" Vorn 12 carefully touched her hand with his manipulator appendage, the closest his species came to a handshake. "Pass? You didn't just pass. You broke our entire testing system. The Council will want to study Earth, to understand how a death world produces such resilient life." "Cool," Marcus said. "But fair warning, if you visit during summer, bring sunscreen. And if you come during winter, bring a coat.
and
If you visit the coasts during storm season, bring a boat. And if—" "We understand," Vorn 12 interrupted, something that might have been respect or terror coloring his voice. "Possibly both. Humans are prepared for everything." "Not everything," Sarah corrected with that terrifying human smile. "But we've gotten pretty good at figuring things out as we go. It's kind of our thing." As Vorn 12 watched the humans leave, already laughing and recounting their favorite moments from the simulation like it had been an amusement park ride. Rather than a brush with digital death, he composed his report to the council in his mind. Subject: Human assessment results. Conclusion: Recommend immediate advancement to full council membership. Warning: Never, under any circumstances, ask humans what they consider a real challenge. For our own psychological safety, we don't want to know. Humanity had passed the test. The real question was whether the galaxy was ready for them.